I wish I had had them. My life would have been so different. I wouldn't have been so burnt out by my wedding photography had I had this medication then. It literally changed my life. Hey, Photo BFFs, and welcome to another episode of the Edit Weekly. I am Amanda from Seattle. And I'm Whitney from Minneapolis. And we are here to support you where you are now and to help you get to where you want to be. Today, we have a part one of a series that we would like to start about being a photographer when you have ADHD. Whitney is going to be talking to us a lot about that today. Whitney, you have had ADHD, you have run businesses with ADHD, and you know what it is like. And I'm really excited to hear more about your discovery of having it and what you have learned helps you in your business. The more I talk to people in the creative fields, the more I find a lot of them have been diagnosed with ADHD. And I think this is a topic that isn't really talked about too much, about things you can do to work with this in your business and to have tools to help you through it. I do not personally have ADHD, but my husband does. And I have seen what he struggles with his jobs. And he doesn't own his own business. So I can only imagine what that's like when you do own your business and what goes on and how you have the tools to be able to help yourself with the things that come up. So thank you for being open to talk about this.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, when you were thinking about what you wanted to discuss, you were like, Amanda, this has to be like a part one.
Yeah.
There is too much
a lot
to talk about, which I think is really great. I think that this is going to make a really awesome series. And I think it's just going to resonate with so many people in our audience. So, So I want to just real easy question here to start out with, Whitney. When did you first start to suspect that you might have ADHD?
So I want to, before I jump into that question, when you were talking about how your husband has ADHD, I think this episode is going to be really good for anybody that has anybody with ADHD in their life. If you work with somebody that has ADHD, if you have a kiddo, and really even if you struggle with other mental health issues. I also have diagnosed anxiety. If you're neurodivergent in any way, I think it's going to be really helpful because the more we talk about this and the more we learn from each other, the more care and compassion, and also like tools, like actual tools that are going to be helpful, not just all this like heady heart stuff, can really, really help us thrive and find really great ways to work with each other. And so I think these episodes are going to be really helpful for anyone. And also a lot of these ADHD tools are just good tools to have in general, like whether you have ADHD or not. It's a good time to share that. I was looking up stats because it's like, I feel like everybody that's an entrepreneur I know has ADHD, and not everybody, but so many people do. And there have been studies that share that about 30% of entrepreneurs have ADHD.
Oh, wow.
Or you could say people with ADHD are 300% more likely to start their own business.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Yes, which is really, really interesting. And then the stat, I had this written down. I think it's only, we say 30% of entrepreneurs, and it's only maybe like 5% or 3% of people have ADHD. So it's just like a huge portion of people have that. And there's a lot of reasons why that is the case. We'll go into that. But to answer your question about when did I start realizing I had ADHD, when I look back on my life, I've had ADHD forever. It's not something you just develop.
Yeah.
It is something that I didn't realize I had. I have a sibling. Well, actually, both my siblings have ADHD.
I didn't
One of
realize
them,
that.
yeah. And other family members, not all of them are diagnosed. One of them was diagnosed, but she has what you would call ADHD hyperactive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she just has just kind of what you might consider the stereotypical ADHD, hyper, running around, getting into everything, which is awesome. Like sometimes I wish I had that because she's so much fun and has so much energy. And I have ADHD and attentive type, and that would be similar to ADD. They've just changed
Okay.
the how they call it. So it's now either ADHD and attentive type or ADHD hyperactive, or you can have combined types. And mine is inattentive, but sometimes I think I might be combined. And the best way to describe it is my hyperactivity is in my brain.
Okay.
It does come out sometimes in my bodies in smaller ways. I'm not running around, but I've got to always be doing something. And my brain is going nonstop. And so this was before I even knew what it was. I was born in 1980, so I'm 45. ADHD was not talked about a lot.
No.
And that's one of the things I love about these young people, Gen Z, is they're so open about this and they're so open about their struggles. And there's also so many ways for you to like kind of get an idea if maybe you have it by watching things online on Instagram or TikTok or
having all of those stories now that people share and having it be so easily available to kind of search and find and hear other people's stories. I think that it seems to me that is how most of the people I know that have had their diagnosis done as adults have found it, is they've seen these, reels and TikToks and they're like, I think I have that. And then they decide to go like in to get diagnosed, to see if they have a diagnosis or not. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this explains so much now that I know this. Yep.
Yeah. And, I didn't have that. And I actually I think I was suspecting ADHD, not because I saw something, but I just, I don't even remember what it was because there wasn't stuff out like that when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed when I was, it was shortly, I can't remember if it was before or after I had my son. So it was, I guess around 13 years ago. No, actually, maybe it was more 9 years ago before I moved to Minneapolis. Either way, it's been a while. One of the biggest things that I remember where I actually had no idea this was ADHD, but I remember studying for something in college and I had to read a page of something that was like boring. I do not remember what it was. And I was staying up and I was trying to read. And I knew I had to read it. And I spent 2 hours trying to read this page and I couldn't. And I remember calling my mom and I was crying. I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't do well in that class.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many little things that I can pick up on now where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have ADHD. And it was when I was married is when it really started to become clear, because all of these issues, when you have a roommate, I was like the roommate that just like couldn't keep things clean. I would try, I was not an easy roommate. I know that, but it wasn't anything I ever did on purpose. So many of these things I just could not do. And I would just be like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why can't I do these things to make life easier for my roommate? Just even like cleaning the dishes, where the task was so overwhelming. I just didn't even know where to start. And so I would just leave them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't oh, I don't want to do this, I'm lazy. It was like, just this frustration.
Yeah.
Roommates come and go. When you're married, if you're going to stay married, you've got to work through this. And so that was when I really started to question. And then my husband started working with me as a wedding photographer. We worked together. Again, we had so many issues. that things I would remember, and this is all personal things. These absolutely came into work, and I'll share more about that later. But he would get so mad at me because I would go to throw something away, and the trash can would be there, and I would stick it on the table above the trash can and not throw it away. And he would say, "Whitney, right there. Why don't you actually?" And I was like, "I don't know what is wrong with me." So, but I am so thankful because there was a point where we both were like, okay, I must have ADHD. We went to see an ADHD therapist, and we went through a very intense diagnosis.
Okay.
It took about 4 hours. I know
wow.
it doesn't always it's actually, I think, a little easier to be diagnosed maybe now, or I don't even know. I don't know how it was then. This is just where
Yeah.
I went. And our psychologist, my husband went with me because that's part of what they look for is this something that's just happening now, or has this
Yeah.
happened your whole life? Because if it's just happening now, it could be something else. So, but if it's something that has happened your whole life, then it could be ADHD. Because again, it's something you're born with. So, all sorts of questions. The psychologist was like, "Oh, I mean, it was like a no-brainer. Like, yes." And it was actually it was so helpful for our marriage because so many of these things that he thought I was doing just to annoy him.
Yeah.
And even if I would said I'm not doing this to annoy you, but for him, he's like, it helped him see these things I struggle with differently than, she's just being lazy. And he didn't say this to me. But we've talked about it in his head. In his head, a lot of times he just took it as like disrespect, like where it's like, man, she really must not respect me if she can't even help out with the dishes or.
Yep.
And so that really helped us both, where he understood where I was coming from. And then also I understood what was going on in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that must have just been such a relief in some ways to know that, okay, because you had said like, what is wrong with me? And to sit and live with that has to be so hard. I feel like a lot of us have gone through mental health struggles at different points in our lives. And when you have that feeling and it sits with you, it really sucks. It just is really hard. And it's hard to work through that. And it's hard when those feelings kind of overtake everything else too. So to almost just have like, I've got to imagine kind of just this big wave of relief of like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just that I am neurodiverse and I have ADHD. How did that feel? I mean, like, was it just this big relief? Did it answer so many questions? Like, what was that like when you actually got the diagnosis?
It was a huge relief.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it did. I had so much shame from it. So much shame. And even and I know it wasn't that long ago, but especially our generation, it wasn't talked about as much growing up. The only people I knew that had ADHD were just these like super hyper high energy people. And I had some really good friends that it would almost be like a joke. "Oh, Whitney, she's always late," or "Oh, Whitney," my roommates, she. And they were great friends. They weren't teasing me. I think, there was a little bit of like annoyance, obviously, but also I took all of that to heart, and I would just, sit there, really so much shame. And even now I still have it. Like when I mess up, when I'm doing something that's really difficult for me because of how my brain works, I still have that shame. I'm very sensitive. I told my husband, I don't like jokes about Whitney being late because, and if you have ADHD, you know this, it's not that you're wanting to be late. It's that there sometimes are just things that you're trying so hard to either not be late. And so maybe you'll get there so early, or you finally get to that crunch time and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to go. And then I'm late and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, and I'm like, everyone's going to be talking about me. Why didn't I do this better? What? I'm going to annoy everyone. So it's not, again, it's easy to say, well, just don't be late. But there's something in my brain that it's called time blind. I mean, there is a name for it, time blindness.
I was going to say, I'm like, I couldn't remember the name, but I knew that there was one because that is something that my husband also struggles with. It's interesting hearing. So my husband and I have had many conversations about this, and it's so interesting talking to other people who are in relationships with a partner who has ADHD, because I do find that those of us that don't have it and we don't really understand what having ADHD means, it really is like same thing I thought with my husband. I was like, you are so lazy. I know I'm like the woman in our relationship, but that doesn't mean I have to do the dishes and the laundry and like the sink is overflowing. Why did you not just stick that dish in the dishwasher? And he's known that he's had ADHD for most of his life, and he was never shy about telling me about it, but I didn't understand what having ADHD really meant. It wasn't until he showed me a video, again, like talking about social media and what you hear from people. There was I don't know if she's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but she was somebody who she herself lives with ADHD and executive dysfunction. And she basically had a whole video about what that's like. And it wasn't until I watched that 5 years ago, like not even that, like my husband and I have been married longer than that. And it wasn't until 5 years ago watching that I truly understood how different my husband's brain is wired than mine. And that when he, like you were saying, it's not that you meant to not throw the thing in the garbage that was right there and you put it on the table, but my husband does the same thing. And I'm like, dude, one more step, open up the door, throw it in the garbage. Like, but it is interesting when, as a partner of somebody, whether that's a business partner or a romantic partner or even just a friendship, when you can understand what it is to have ADHD and what that is like for the person in your life that has it, it has given me so much more empathy and understanding. And I feel like that is such a big thing. If you ever are in business with somebody or your business partner has it, I think it's just, you can understand it better and it makes you more compassionate because it is not something that like you are trying to do, Whitney. Like I shared this on her Instagram stories last week. We were supposed to record this episode last week, and the day of you were like, wait, are we recording this? Is this today? And for me, it was like, okay, like I get it. This has happened to me more than once in my personal life. So yeah, no problem, Whitney. Let's do it next week. Like, I knew there was nothing malicious about it. It just was. So yeah, that's it's really interesting that yes, no matter where you are with somebody in your life that has it, to then know on the other side what it's like for that person, I think is really invaluable. So yeah, even if people that are watching this don't have it, but you have somebody in your life, I think that this just helps to understand them even more and realize what they are going through. And I'm thinking specifically, like as a business owner, Whitney, like you have mentioned some of the struggles in your business before your diagnosis. So once you had the diagnosis, how did that change the way you decided to run your business? Because I've got to imagine that once you had that, you were like, okay, well, maybe there's some things I can do to make this easier.
Yes. And, as we're talking about this, I don't want to give the impression that like now that my husband knows I have ADHD, I still get to do everything and I get to like be late and I get to, not clean up the dishes. But what it did is it helped me. Before I would be like, I don't know what to do about the dishes. We actually got to see an ADHD coach together as a couple. We moved shortly after. We moved to Minneapolis shortly after that. And so we didn't get to keep doing that. But I was actually able to learn some strategies. So at the time, it was the chaos of the dishes had me so overwhelmed. So we learned, okay, Peter if he gets them organized on that, we didn't have a dishwasher, so we had to hand.
Oh my gosh.
So he, again,
that
we have
needs
one now.
I would say that adds a whole other level to that. Oh my goodness.
Whole nother level. But he would get them stacked up and organized for me, so then I could actually do that work. So that was something we were able to change. And then what I realized in my business was I actually was already doing things in my business to help my ADHD brain, but I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Interesting. Okay.
Because when you have someone with ADHD, when you have the pressure of a timeline, or you have the pressure of knowing somebody else is depending on you and this is really important, you're more likely going to get it done. And so things, when it comes to time blindness, what I did for weddings, because
oh man, I was going to say weddings, especially, timelines are so important, and it is so imperative that you're there on time. And
and you know that. And so it's like going to somebody's Christmas party can be really annoying if you're late for your partner, if they like to be on time all the time. But also in my head, it's a Christmas party.
It's a Christmas party.
Nothing's going to get ruined. But with a wedding, if you are late, there are dire consequences.
Yes, exactly.
If you forget a wedding, dire consequences. I still will have dreams about forgetting. In my head, I actually think there's some wedding I must have forgotten. There isn't. But I will dream about it. So what I did, and this was before my diagnosis, is I had to be at a wedding 1 hour early.
Oh, okay.
I knew in my head.
Yeah.
An hour early. Even if the wedding was 20 minutes away, my plan, how do I get there an hour early? And so, okay, it's going to take me 20 minutes to drive there. I need to be there at noon. The wedding, my time to start shooting is noon. I need to be there by 11, which means I need to leave my house by 10:30. So then when it gets to be 11, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to be there an hour early. I have to leave at 10:30. It's getting close to 10:30. I'm getting everything together. I'm in my car. Now I've got that hour to relax, because I know I'm going to get there on time. But I had to set it up that way, because with that hour, there's so much buffer that if anything does go wrong, I'm still not going to have that intensity. And even with sessions, I would do at least 30 minutes early. But in my head, setting that schedule and that timeline would be that pressure to force me to get there on time. So it was very specific. So that was one of those things. The other thing, again, with this time blindness, and also having this pressure of getting things done, was telling the client a due date when their images were going to be done by.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So not a couple weeks. And I used to would do that, a couple weeks, because in my brain, a couple weeks, I can get that wedding done in a day.
Time.
So I'll start it the day before, which does not always work. Maybe you don't get it done. You're staying up late. So having an exact date is very, very helpful. And even now I'm like that. And it needs to be, if I have a paying client, I have to have an exact date that it's due by. I find myself falling into my ADHD bad habits when I do a session for free or as a gift, because I don't have that pressure of they gave me money.
Yes.
I owe them. So you have to set up this pressure for yourself. And then the other thing that I did was I did not work alone. Right away, I was trying to do stuff by myself. My husband, hey, I need some help. I can't keep up. I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So that he started helping me with my business. And even now, the other entrepreneurial things that I do, having somebody else with me, like Amanda, having this other person to help you get through. So there were just Yeah, a lot of those things I was actually already doing when I got my diagnosis. And I ended up, there are still some things I need to implement because I basically got my diagnosis at the end of my wedding photography business right before I moved here and did not go back to shooting weddings. So yeah, I wish I had known. I wish I
Yeah.
had known earlier. Because even with those things that I naturally did, there's so much more I could have done to make everyone on my team, my life, not as much of a struggle.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense. And yeah, I feel like just having those answers earlier, just in general, I mean,
oh
that's
yeah.
just, which is one of the things that, so knowing that my husband has ADHD, we started seeing some things in one of my daughters. And so that was my thing is I was like, let's go get her evaluated because I want her to know from as young as possible if she does in fact have ADHD, what that means and what she needs to like what things she'll need to work on and what tools we can help her with to just make her as successful as possible with the way her brain works. I could go on and on forever about how I really don't love how our education system is set up for neurotypical people and not neurodiverse
Yep.
individuals, because the more I talk to other parents, the more I talk to other people and friends and entrepreneurs, it's a big number of people that live with neurodiversity. And I part of me wonders, is it more rare to be neurotypical? Because the number of people in my life that I have learned are neurodiverse and how things just are, the world is not set up for them. And it's really frustrating for me. My daughter ended up with, she did not get diagnosed with ADHD. She did get diagnosed with anxiety. And so, again, those same things where I was like, I want her to have these tools from as young as possible to be able to help her and so that I can help her too. All that to say, what I'm wondering from you as somebody who went through a diagnosis as you've been older, what would you say to somebody who's nervous about talking to their doctor about getting evaluated? Like maybe they've had these same feelings that you've had. You know, maybe they, don't have a supportive family in their life who have, helped them to get to this point. Like, what would you say to somebody who's in that position who wants to get evaluated, but maybe afraid to talk to their doctor about it?
So my first thought, and this is when you were talking about your daughter, the ADHD that I have, the one in my head, is it's more difficult to be diagnosed.
Okay.
There's still a lot in the assessments that are based on more of the hyperactive.
Yeah.
I know this because of my son. My son, I knew we actually worked to get a diagnosis for him when he was in elementary school. I could go on and on about this. He is
I know, I
more
feel like you and
my
I would
type
have
of yes.
you and I
yes.
would have a long discussion with people about
Yes.
your
And
children and
this,
what you're doing for them and
yes.
yes.
There actually is a point to that. It is relevant as an adult because it was based on his teachers. One of his, they call it a Vanderbilt assessment. They send to the teachers. They check if your kid experiences X, Y, Z.
Okay.
One of his teachers, we actually found out later, doesn't really believe in ADHD. Said he wasn't experiencing all these things that he was experiencing in her class, which we know because she, shortly after filling this out, was like, oh, your son is struggling with it. And I'm like, well, why did you? So he didn't get a diagnosis.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that like a teacher's evaluation, if you will, or what a teacher says would carry such weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's how they, because you can do that, but then you can actually go in for those like really long ones, kind of like what I had.
Yep.
Here in Minnesota, there's like a year-long wait list for that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's
Monroe,
the same thing here in Washington State too. Yeah.
So he is in 8th grade now. Anything mental health related in our family from the moment he was born, because I have had diagnosed anxiety since I was 9 years old. And I think it's this generation too. There's nothing shameful about what we share about these things. So we talk about it freely. This is not like a big private thing in our family when we talk about these things. It's something he shares with everybody. So it's not like this big secret. And I think that's really important. I knew he kept going 6th grade, 7th grade. He's in 8th grade. I was like, he has ADHD. Went to another practitioner. This one, I expressed my concerns. She actually took my concerns about this. We had another teacher, like, long story short, he ended up, he does have ADHD. But again, there were some people, one of his teachers, she put something that he didn't struggle with in class, but actually he did struggle with it. She just didn't see it because so much of it's in the head. Which is why it's hard. So 2 things from that I want, if you're listening to this and you're like nervous about going to see a doctor, one thing is there are some people that they don't believe in it.
Yeah. Which
they
is
literally don't.
After
I found
somebody
out
wouldn't believe in this, but okay.
And you know, this is part of that shame in me. Like when I found out, I will never forget this because I thought I was over it. When I found out I had ADHD, I told people, and you know, some people are just like, I told this one friend, and a good friend, and his response was, yeah, they just try to get, diagnose people so they can get medicine to everyone, so anyone could get a diagnosis. And
wow.
I mean, I'm not still friends with him.
Yeah, good call.
Because of that.
There's nothing like being gaslit by by somebody. Like, yeah, wow.
But it's stuck.
Yeah.
And I know there are some doctors that are going to say, oh, you're just somebody that saw this on TikTok. You have to go in knowing that this might happen, but you know what? That doesn't mean they're right. That doesn't mean you don't have ADHD. You might not. It might be, there's other things that could happen. But if you have a doctor that is really, if they're actually listening to you and taking you what you say seriously, they're going to work to try to figure out how to help you, no matter like what your diagnosis ends up being.
Yeah.
And the other thing I hope you can take out of this is you can get a second opinion.
Yes.
Which is what we did with my son. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad because now he has some things set up in school that help him.
Which is amazing. Yep.
Yeah. And then medication. That's a whole nother thing. So now he can, which before he could not get without a diagnosis.
Exactly. I was going to say, because, you need the diagnosis in order to get the medication. And yes, the people I know in my life that have been diagnosed, the way that they explain how they feel when they're on medication versus when they're off it. And especially, I don't know, I'm not sure because I'm not on the medication or anything, but I know that there was a while where the medication was unavailable and it was everybody, there was a shortage of supply for the demand. And the friends I talked to that were on medication and they couldn't get it, to hear them talk about what was going on, it was heartbreaking for me to hear what they were having to struggle with now, and how they would say that some people in their lives were just like, oh, whatever, you don't have it, you're fine, like quit complaining. And the friends would be like, this is so hard for me to not have this medication that I need. And how crappy is it to hear from the people in your life that are telling you to suck it up, it's not that big of a deal. It's just it's that part is so hard. So but I love that how you said that, if you're the first person you see is not willing to listen to you, go get a second opinion. I think that there is so much in the medical world where you have to be your own advocate, and you may not find what you need in that first doctor that you go see. Go find a second one that will actually listen to you, because it is so important to feel like you are seen and heard from whichever medical professional you're going to.
Yeah. A lot of times your first step is to go to your general practitioner. They don't know everything. They are general.
Yeah.
So find a psychologist, a psychiatrist, someone in the mental health field to talk to. And then especially when it comes to, like, we're talking about medication. I am on medication. I am on Adderall. I actually had a talk with a friend last night who her young son just started, and she was like, "Oh, I feel bad. He's like on uppers." And I was like, I said, "You know what?" I said, "Do not feel bad. I wish I had them." Like, I actually think my life would have been so different. I think I wouldn't have been so burnt out by my wedding photography had I had this medication then. I really, really do. It literally changed my life. It was not the first medication I tried. I highly, highly recommend seeing a psychiatrist. I mean, you can get it from your general practitioner. I see a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I love nurse practitioners. You get more time with them, but they will work with you to find that right medication for you, whatever it is. And they are trained in this. They know how to get it to work. It took me a while to find this for me, and it makes such a difference. And you don't have to be on medication, but I will say, if you can, don't make life harder for you and just try to avoid it because you're scared, because there's been so much, the medications that are offered, there's been so much research on them. If you talk to a psychiatrist, they're going to actually know this, and they keep up to date, and they're the professionals, and it can be really, really helpful. And I'm like, man, well, and we talk about dishes. I do dishes all the time now. Like, I clean all it. When I am a different person. And part of it was that medication helped me just learn the skills, get to a place in my head where I learned these skills I needed to learn. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I used to be in all like essential oils, let's not do medication. And I finally was like, it's too freaking hard. Trying to keep it PG.
Right?
I think we're not in we haven't quite gone there on our podcast yet, so we'll keep it that way.
I think I maybe have dropped the S word a couple of times, but that might have gotten edited out.
We'll keep who knows? I mean,
I know. That's the thing. I don't know. When we get passionate about
this
stuff
way for now. But
I'm a hockey player. The swears are real hard sometimes to keep inside. I've been bred to say them outwardly.
Life can be easier. It doesn't have to always. It can be easier. Sorry, I'm just like getting...
no. It's so true. Like, there are so many things that are hard, and that you struggle with, and if you can make it easier, then to me, that's what a relief to be able to have that. I love this so much. Okay, I think we're going to stop here. We have so much we can do for a second episode about this. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing this and being open to have a conversation about this. And to everybody watching, I really hope that you have found this interesting. I hope that if you are somebody that is neurodivergent, that you are feeling like, I don't know, a little relief that we are openly talking about this, that you are not the only business owner that is working through things and trying to figure out what's going to work for your business and what's going to help you be successful. So I think that's what episode 2 will be, is diving into maybe some more tools and tricks that you can use in your business in order to help you just give your clients the experience that they want, and to help make you as a business owner have an easier time doing all the administrative stuff, because there's obviously, we don't just photograph. There's a million other things that we have to do too. So,
and Amanda, I have, before we get off.
Yes.
Because we've talked about all these things, but to make it clear for people, especially with ADHD, if you forget everything I said, from this episode, these are the 3 things that I want you to take away. Like, if you think you have ADHD, or if you know someone with ADHD, how you can help them. If you can get a diagnosis, do that. If you can, talk to your general practitioner first. And I know it can be cost prohibitive, but if you can do that, it's going to be such a good step, just even for your head. So you're not going to keep wondering, because that actually takes up a lot of energy too.
Yes.
Do I actually have it? Do I not? Am I making this up? Like it goes on and on. That's your first step. Do not, if you're like just starting out and you have ADHD or you think you might have ADHD, do not do this alone. Even if it's just finding an accountability partner, find somebody to connect with that can help keep you on track. That's your second thing. And the third thing is give yourself due dates and like times, like set times. So those are just like 3. There's so many other tools, and I know other people know more than me too. So maybe we'll have like a guest on to, I don't know, I'm just making this up now.
No, I love it. Actually, it's funny. As you were talking, I was like, oh, I have a friend that I actually had not thought about it until now. I'm like, oh, she might be an interesting person to have on.
We can all learn from each other.
Exactly. Yes. She diagnoses, she works with a lot of kids and has started doing more adults too, diagnosing them with ADHD, being on the spectrum. She does evaluations, and I yes, as you were talking, I was like, oh, I should be. I'm going to go ahead and hit her up and ask her.
Yes. So, but those are like just 3 small things that I think will really, really help you. And if you are living with somebody with ADHD, just, give them that grace. If you're listening and you're not living with someone, don't be a jerk. This is real. This is like actually something that is really can really, really make life hard. Hard beyond just even describing it. It is really struggle.
Yes. Not only have you shown me your vulnerability and what's going on and just hearing from you, and I know you living with somebody, my husband who has it, he and I have had many conversations, and we see a therapist, and our therapist has ADHD as well. So it's really interesting. For him, it's affirming because he has a person who we talk to who understands what it's coming from.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she's really good at being like, I know how hard this is, Amanda, because my husband also struggles with me doing these things.
It is hard for the partner. Definitely.
It really is hard when you have a partner that has that. But to learn a little bit more about it and to understand that it is not something that somebody can help. It is just how their brain was wired, how they were born. It really does give you a lot more compassion. And so I think, part 2, we'll talk about some more tips and tools and things you can do in your business to help you succeed when you have ADHD. And I'm really excited, and I'll talk to my friend to see if she wants to come on for maybe part 3 of talking about from a doctor's point of view, like what that's like. So anyways, thank you so much, Photo BFFs. As always, we just appreciate your support and your love so much. We really hope that we can be as supportive to you as well on your journey starting a photography business. You can find us over on Instagram at The Edit Weekly. We are also over on YouTube as The Edit Weekly. Please like and subscribe and share this with your friends, especially I feel like this conversation, because like Whitney has said, this doesn't just involve photography business owners. This affects so many different people, and especially if you know somebody who is starting any business that they have and they have ADHD, some of these tools could potentially help them. And maybe this conversation just in general helps them feel better about where they're at. Yeah. And just, it's always nice to know somebody else is going through the same things that you are. So thank you again, and we cannot wait to see you next week on The Edit Weekly. Bye.
Bye. Okay, Photo BFFs, if you have not subscribed, do that right now so you never miss a new episode. You can also find us at theeditweekly.com, where we have free resources and downloads for you to help grow your photo business.